everyone, and welcome back to the United Star. I'm Prashant Kothari, and I've got Hemanth here today with me. And today we're going to do something very interesting. We're going to break down Brentford's recruitment policy and try to understand how they've made themselves extremely successful in the transfer market and guaranteed promotion to the Premier League. So, Hemanth, welcome to the channel, and thank you for doing this.
Hey man, thank you so much for having me on. It's been I've been following United Star from quite some time now. You guys are doing very well, building a United fan base in India and growing the community. So yeah, keep up the work, I would say.
Thank you so much, Hemanth. So,
Yeah.
Hemanth, Brentford was sort of languishing in the lower leagues of English football, a small club coming sort of in the suburbs of London, not a very rich part. How has this transformation happened, and what do you think is the starting point of it?
Yeah. So just a disclaimer, I'm just a normal Man United fan like all you guys are. So it's just that I found Brentford's story very, very interesting, and I have been not following them for very long. I've been like keeping a track of their journey since like the past 1 or 2 years, not really long. And their owner is someone who absolutely impresses me with the way he runs the club. He's got a very interesting story that I've got to say. So basically, Matthew Benham, he's the owner of Brentford right now. So he basically was doing his PhD, I think, or degree in physics, just normal degree. And after finishing his degree, he went and joined this bank in America, some bank. He worked there for about 12 years, and then he just thought maybe banking is just boring. I need to do something more. So he was, I think, an avid sports fan, and he wanted to get into sports gambling as such. So he joined the sports gambling industry. He joined a sports gambling company named Premier Bet. And at Premier Bet, he was working with this guy named Tony Bloom, who was one of the most successful gamblers in that industry at the time. And Matthew Benham was working with him. And what they basically were doing was they were creating an analytics model that would predict on who to bet on, and all those betting analytics and statistics they were making a model on. And Matthew Benham was learning all those knows of those analytics and all that stuff for gambling. So he's making models and all that. But then after a couple of years, Tony Bloom and Matthew Benham, they had just like a fallout between them, just like how in every company there are fallouts between two people and all that. So after falling out, Benham made his own company named Smart Odds. And what he did was whatever analytics and methodologies he learned from Tony Bloom, he used them, and he was like consulting clients like, okay, you should bet on this team to win, they should bet on that team to maybe lose or something like that. And he was making a lot of money like out of it. So after as couple of years passed by, it was around I think 2006 or 2007. Brentford were in a stage of bankruptcy, like they were almost going to go bankrupt. They were financially very struggling and all that. And Matthew Benham happened to be a Brentford fan throughout his childhood and throughout his life, apparently. So what he did was he gave a loan to the fans, a 700,000 loan, dollar loan to the fans, and told them that you buy the club, you run the club, and you just take over it. And there was a condition in that loan. So like if the fans were not able to pay the 700,000 loan back to Matthew Benham, he would be owner of the club. So he gave the loan in 2007, and about after 5 years, in 2012, the fans just told him that we won't be able to pay you the loan back. So Matthew Benham became the owner of the club. Now, what he did was he, instead of going the traditional with the traditional approach of making a structure and building a football club and all that, he took a different approach. He took the Moneyball approach. So now, those are not aware, Moneyball is a very famous movie by Brad Pitt. You can go and watch it on Netflix. It's absolutely amazing, a revolution in sport. And so Matthew Benham, what he did was he chose an analytic approach. So he basically instead of hiring football based people, he started hiring analytic based people who would analyze players in an analytical sense, and I'll talk about that more ahead. So he also, what he did even smarter was, all those people he was hiring and all those strategies he was using on Brentford, he was basically testing them before in his other club, Midtjylland. He bought Midtjylland, the club in Belgium, the club against whom Marcus Rashford scored his debut.
Debut.
Yeah. So he bought Midtjylland. He tried and tested all the strategies, and whatever strategies worked, he used them on Brentford. And whatever strategies failed, he just put them in the bin. So in that way, he made a very complex structure with the use of analytics and data, and hired a very good team. Hired, I mean, bought players. No one thought that a club of Brentford's. I think they were in championship. So yeah, no one thought Brentford, a championship team, would actually buy a, not a championship team. I think they were in League One at that time, so no one thought Brentford should be signing players like that, but they did sign players like that. The players who were like, uh, sidelined and written off, and were told that they have no career and all that. So yeah, so now Brentford's valuation is about 300 million, which is absolutely crazy because now obviously they've got the Premier League promotion, and Premier League's obviously got a lot of money. And if they manage to stay up in the Premier League, I think it's gonna go up to like 400,000 or something. So it's a crazy story, Brentford. So yeah, I'm very envious of their owner. I hope he had such an owner as well.
Yeah, I know you rightly said, Heman, that there were a lot of players that Brentford signed that A, people didn't know about, and B, people didn't understand why they
Yeah,
signed them.
yeah,
And the other thing with that is that I think two of the most successful examples are, of course, Ollie Watkin, whom they sold for about, I think, 28 million pounds it
yeah,
was,
around that. Yeah,
and Sadio Ben Rama, who of course also
yeah,
went for around 25 million pounds himself. So
yeah.
those were part of that sort of BMW sort of triad, which was available, was there when they almost failed. Where they failed to qualify to the Premier League last season, and Norwich beat them to it. But now they're at the Premier League. So what has been their sort of strategy that even after, what happens is most teams that make it to the playoffs and do successfully really fall off in the next season if they're not able to qualify to the Premier League. But Brentford, even after losing their star players, were able to mount a successful challenger, now are in the league. So, what did they do right in that period, and how did they recruit?
Yeah, so this is a very good question actually. And yesterday, when Solskjaer signed the contract with United, people were like, "Why are we even giving this man a contract? What has he done? Like he's not won any trophies and all that." There were people all over Twitter, if you would see. And if you follow United Arena on Twitter, he's a very good account who analyzes United analytically and from all the aspects. He's very good at it. Recommend you to follow him because his work is amazing. He used a word called sustainable winning. So what Brentford built was a model that was sustainable. So no matter who they sell, what they do, they have a structure in place that is sustainable. And sustainability in football is very important. It's the days of Jose Mourinho getting 28-year-olds and 30-year-olds and trying to win the league one season and then absolutely getting the sack the next season. That doesn't work anymore. You have to build sustainable models. The reason why clubs like City, Liverpool, although Liverpool had a drop off last year, but their model is sustainable. And Brentford, what they did is, how they built this model is, instead of judging a player from a sense that, okay, this player's not got these many goals, so we should not sign him. They look at insightful metrics such as expected goals. So expected goals is basically, it's a value, a mathematical value. So if you take a shot on goal, it measures the quality of the shot in a sense, if that makes sense. So if a player is not scoring any goals, but he has got an expected goal, he or she, whoever it is, because women's football is also high on analytics nowadays. So if a player's got expected goal number of, let's say, zero point 0.9, but he or she hasn't scored any goals, so that means this taking quality amount of shots, but they're just not getting it. So you have to make sure that you have players around them who provide them with high quality chances, and then they end up taking those shots and eventually end up scoring those load amount of goals. And one very good example of it is Ivan Toney, who happens to be my favorite Brentford player. I even made the statement when Brentford went up that when Brentford start the Premier League, I'll put Ivan Toney in my fantasy Premier League team for the first, like as the first player, because I love him. So what happened was, as you said, Ollie Watkins, he went to Villa, and Watkins was one of Brentford's main goal threats, if you want to say that way. And Brentford fans were kind of worried, I guess, that Watkins is gone now. Who's going to replace him? And then there was this guy Ivan Toney, who had multiple failed loan spells. I think he went to Newcastle, and from Newcastle he was loaned to like many lower tier English clubs, and he was just basically written off, and it did not just work out for him. And Brentford decided to sign him. And even when came to Brentford, there was a lot of criticism and talk about Ivan Toney, because if you see Ollie Watkins's game and if you analyze his game, Watkins was one of those guys, is a bit like Martial. I wouldn't say not exactly, but Watkins was a bit like Martial, wherein he liked to drop wide sometimes and try and work those channels between the centre backs and the full backs. And he used to work a lot in that sense. And Ivan Toney, for some reason, wasn't that player when he came to Brentford. He was a proper like number nine who would like just score goals as soon as you gave him the ball. So after he came to Brentford, Thomas Frank, obviously the Brentford manager, he worked with him so much that in the 2 seasons Ivan Toney has now played with Brentford. I think in one of the seasons he broke the goal scoring record of Glenn Murray. I think he scored about 31 or 33 odd goals, and like overall his 2 seasons he scored like 50 plus goals, if I'm not wrong, for Brentford. So yeah, he's a goal machine, Ivan Toney, and he absolutely dreads the opposition defenses because he just roams so much and he likes to take shots out of the box. He's got a lot to his game. So that's another example of a game how Brentford, they've also got a very good coaching setup that actually works in inclinement to their ideology as a structure. The analytics department, the coaching, it's all inclined and it all works very well. And they train their players in that way as well, so that they perform to that level. So Ivan Toney is a prime example of that. Then you've got Buemo. I don't know if I'm spelling his name right, but yeah, he's another guy. Then there's the Silva. There are a lot of players in Brentford that actually have proved a lot of odds wrong, and by being brilliant for them.
So also, like, this is a little, I mean, it's not exactly what Bielsa does, but it is a little bit of that, in the sense that they identify players who others think will not do well, but then they mold them and train them in a way where they work for Brentford system and they actually become good players. In Bielsa's system, what often happens is they're good for Bielsa but can't play anywhere else. But Brentford, we've seen that especially Ollie Watkins has gone on to do very well in the Premier League. Ben Rama has shown some signs of excellence. He's yet not burst or taken the Premier League by storm. So, what are the models, something that you can tell our viewers that Brentford are using in order to scout these players, and how does that process in a sense?
Yeah, so I think the thing with when you say people like Bielsa and all, they just sign players who are written off by others. So it means they're written off in a sense that when like normal football viewers like us, if we just watch a player and if he or she doesn't look good to the eye for us, we just say maybe there's potential, but I don't know if they'll be able to ever make it to the top level or anything like that, and we just write them off. But what these people and these coaches do is that they look at underlying facts. Like for example, if there's a midfielder, and if you want to look at whether he or she can do brilliantly in a top club, so you have to first look at the personnel of that club. Like that club plays against teams that plays against low blocks, and if that midfielder can break the lines with their passing, they look at the passing numbers, progressive passing numbers, or uh, what do you call it? long passing numbers or short passing numbers. There are a lot of numbers. There are a lot of metrics to measure these things, and they look all of these aspects against different sets of opposition, and they have a lot of data. So
Hmm.
first they look at the numbers, and then they look at it with the eye. Okay, so the numbers are now telling us a certain fact about a player. So now let's just look at it like if he or she is just doing it in a right way. And so they compare both these numbers as well as what they see through the means of their eye, and then they decide, okay, so what we want for our requirement, I think this player would actually do very well. So in that sense, they use these metrics, and obviously the analysis that they do, and they want as a player, and they basically hire them. So it's not like uh, players are written off and they just get him because they're just written off. It's more like they look at more underlying facts. Like if a player is bad, why he or she is bad? Like what's going wrong? Is it something wrong with the team? Is it something wrong with the player individually? Like there are a lot of things. So they undercover all the just cover up all these facts, and they hire up these players.
Absolutely. And that makes a lot of sense. And we've obviously seen this in baseball. We've seen this in American football as
Yeah,
well. And it's coming in now into uh, football, not what they'd call soccer, but it's coming into football as well a little bit.
yeah.
And we recently saw this as well with one of those baseball teams that they were using a lot of data and analytics.
Yeah, Oakland
So,
Athletics, basically Moneyball. So Oakland
yeah,
Athletics started this,
Moneyball and
and
the dustbin,
yeah,
the gang.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. I mean, football analytics people don't like the term Moneyball for some reason because they think it's a term coined from another sport and it does not feel original and all that. But yeah, Moneyball is probably the right word because see, the thing is that you've got cities, United, Chelsea's, and Liverpool's. They spend a lot of money, and for clubs like Brentford, Leeds, and even lower division clubs for that matter of fact, they do not have financial power to compete with these top clubs and secure players who've got the amount of talent that these players have at these clubs. So the logical thing for them would be to basically get a coaching structure in place and see what that coaching structure wants, and then identify players who will put up the numbers or the amount of work rate to produce the style of play that the coaching setup wants to implement with that team, if that makes sense. So if like Brentford, they want to play high press football, so they'll look at different aspects, and they'll see which players would actually result in putting up those high pressing numbers and winning back the second balls and all these kind of numbers, and then they'll get those players. So they're basically checking the profile, and it's getting sasta mal types thing. So yeah, so they're getting the cheapest and the most creative and valuable assets out there. So that's the main thing because they can't financially compete, obviously. So
Right. But you know what, Hemant, I always have this question. Is
yeah.
Moneyball considered only a success when you guarantee Premier League promotion? Was Brentford a success even when they wouldn't guarantee? Would they have been a success even if they didn't guarantee Premier League promotion?
Yeah.
So is there
Yeah.
place then for Moneyball for a team that is, let's say, not going to win the championship or not going to make the next step, but they're going to be where they are and they're going to be happy in that space?
Yeah. So basically, the Moneyball system that is there, it's basically, I mean, not every setup or structure that is meant is for winning. So, I mean, basically, football clubs want to survive and they want to become successful, like they want to win trophies as such. So, when you talk about Brentford, their aim was to go to the Premier League and make money, and like they wanted to be financially successful. So they did all these steps possible and made all the structures and possible for that to happen. And they even had a owner who backed them enough with their money, and that in turn led to them becoming successful in a financial viewpoint. But there are a lot of clubs who are still in the lower tiers, and they use these analytics. Like if you go around Twitter, there are jobs from Swansea City or let's say Sunderland, and even these clubs are now starting to take these approaches of hiring video scouts, making them watch footage of players across Europe and world and analyze the numbers and the data and tell them that okay, this player would actually fit very well into the system that the manager is currently playing and all that. So it's not like all these strategies are meant for winning, but it is for making those teams sustainable. So let's say there are teams who play very entertaining football and fans are very entertained by them. There's a very good chance they'll get some financial backing from some investor or sponsor from somewhere across the globe, and they'll still be financially financially survivable, if that's a word, in whichever league they're playing, even though if they're not getting promoted. So yeah, so basically it's all about changing the approach and evolving the approach now, because even United recently had a data science head, if I'm not wrong.
Hmm.
So everyone's basically going in this direction, that it's not just what you see on the pitch, and it's not just about the scouts who are going to abroad and watching certain players. It's about looking at underlying facts, like what we are looking, is that actually deceiving or is it actually true. So basically every club more or less now is going down this path, because everyone wants success. So ultimately, yeah, that's the
Great.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And just to wrap this up, I just wanted to ask you, what is next then for Brentford? What kind of signings or scouting have they been doing coming into the Premier League? Because they have got a kitty of money now to spend.
Yeah.
And what is the sort of next step? How competitive do you think they will be in the league?
Yeah, so now I think we signed Christoph Ayer. I think he was at Ajax, if I'm not wrong. So not Ajax, sorry, Celtic, if I'm not wrong. So they signed Ayer from Celtic, who happens to be like again one of those analytics fan favorites. Like he's a very good defender. They've signed. So now basically they're what they're doing is they want to establish themselves as a regular Premier League club, like a Wolves or a Leeds. Or Leeds will definitely, like, the path they're on, they are bound to establish themselves as a Premier League regular. So they want to establish themselves as a Premier League regular. Then slowly and steadily, they want to increase their level of squad quality even more, like to the one to the levels of, let's say, Leicester. Leicester took a lot of time. I think their owners took over in 2011, and it took them like 5 or 6 years to like win the league, which was crazy. But even by then, their recruitment structures had been in place. Like they signed Kante, Mares, and all these kind of players. So their recruitment structures was already in play. So now I think Brentford's going to do something very similar, in my opinion. I don't know if it makes sense, but they want to be like slowly and steadily pushing upwards in the Premier League table, and earn more money and get more, those uh, elite signings for big money moves that will absolutely like cross the numbers and charts for all those metrics that they keep track of. So yeah, I think that's Brentford's plan, I guess. So
Right. So thank you so much, Hemanth, for giving us this sort of breakdown and tour of what Brentford have been doing as a football club in terms of the recruitment aspect. It's been wonderful chatting with you today, and thank you for coming onto the channel. Thank everyone who's watching. Thank you for watching. Please do subscribe to the channel, like this video, and we'll be back with a lot more content. Of course, Manchester United is going to be playing Brentford in a
yeah,
pre-season friendly, and of course, we will be facing them in the Premier League as well. And this is a very interesting model that they have been following. Hopefully, Manchester United can learn something from it. Hopefully, y'all have learned something from it. Until next time, this is Prasham. This has been Hemant. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.
thanks everyone.